Hi, everyone. How are you on this glorious, glorious day? Take two, which I'll explain in a minute, of our Powerhouse Mavericks training. And it's all about personal leadership on steroids. And what I have to explain in regards to take two, and this is all about personal leadership. It's ironic how you could be kind of planning for something or thinking about something or just kind of, even talking with a friend about something and that same subject or topic actually happens to you. And that's exactly what's happened to me over the last couple of days as I really kind of looked at wanting to discuss personal leadership with you based on one, a number of conversations I've had with my clients and or even members of our Powerhouse Mavericks group on Facebook, all about just kind of how we show up in the world and how it impacts us both personally and professionally. But then I had a one of my Clubhouse slash YouTube sessions for kick-ass leadership on Tuesday, and it was going to be on personal leadership on steroids. And yet there was like technical issues on Tuesday, not with myself, but with my co-host, and therefore that didn't happen. But yet there was a lot of underpinnings of personal leadership there. Well, then I thought, okay, so I'll bring the topic of conversation to Powerhouse Mavericks on Thursday. And I do. And we had a great conversation. At least I did. Because once I was done and I started sharing it, we were broadcasting like we are now on YouTube and into our Powerhouse Mavericks Facebook group page. At the same time, I started sharing it to LinkedIn and sharing it to my other Facebook pages. And all of a sudden I thought, you know what? It's kind of wonky sometimes, the quality. So let me just take a look at it and listen to it. And then at the same time, I noticed a DM or a couple actually come to me through Facebook. And the next thing you know, that, I don't know, 25-minute conversation yesterday that I had to myself was without sound. And therefore it explained why I would see some people pop on, but then they'd pop off. Though no one really kind of said, hey, Bernadette, I can't hear you, which is fine. But I was just shocked. I would use the word devastated, but you know what? Personal leadership. Life happens and it sucks when it does. It sucks when it does when you really do work on something really hard or you commit to showing up or you have something really planned that you have a key objective and result that you want from it. And yet it doesn't happen the way you want it to. Personal leadership is all about how you respond to those. Now, why is that important? And why did I think it was important to have a conversation about it? Because many of you, just like I do, many of you will sit there in your office, at home, on a walk, and you're kind of beating yourself up at the same time. Maybe you're just questioning, like, why are things not happening the way I want them to happen? Why are they not happening at the pace or the time that I want them to happen? Why aren't they happening at the volume based on all the work or all the effort or all the focus you're putting on something? And I believe it truly comes down to personal leadership. Now, leadership, that term in itself, immediately brings somebody into the workplace as if, okay, I'm a manager slash leader. And therefore, leadership skills and qualities and traits are talked about a great deal within a business environment, but not as much in our personal lives. Now, there's individuals out there, experts, coaches, consultants, teachers, including myself, that will use kind of like terms such as be the CEO of your life. And what that really truly means is personal leadership. It means understanding that you are, the kind of in the lead as to how your life rolls out in front of you, good, bad, or indifferent. We all have choices. We all have our ability of, free choice, not free, just free choice, free will. And therefore, how things transpire in our world from the moment something happens to then how do we respond to things that are happening is all about choice. It's all about choice. And so I would really like to bring the whole concept, not, it's nothing new, but of you thinking about leadership, not just in your work, in the office, in what it is that you're doing to, earn a living or build a business, but in all aspects of your life. So how did the last several days really prove itself as to what my personal leadership is? Because again, just like you define your mission statement for your work, you define what it is you stand for, you define the ideal client you're going after, the service you're providing, the what and the why as to why you're providing it. Each of us also need to give great intentional thought and consideration to what is it and what does it mean for me to show up in the world? Like, how do I want to kind of engage in relationships, engage in business, engage in making myself whole and full and complete? And what are my traits and qualities, values, morals? What is my, my stand on how I want to be, how I want to show up, but how I also want to be received and perceived by other people. And so we don't spend a great deal of time doing that in our lives. Even when we go on like a personal journey to consider, oh, where am I and what do I want to be doing? What do I not want to be doing? We really don't put it in kind of a package of, okay, this is how I want to lead my life. And therefore, it's also going to be how I want to translate that to my business. So if you are struggling, if you are stuck, if you are frustrated with the pace at which things are happening, then maybe it's time to kind of not look at just what are you doing at work. And as your coach from a business perspective, I will ask you a lot of those questions. Like, okay, so what were your goals? What were your plans? What actions did you take? What were the results of them? What did you make adjustments to? But though all of those questions have to be asked personally as well. How am I showing up to myself? Like, how do I go out in the world? How am I showing up to my own responsibilities and my own commitments that I make? How am I showing up for other people? How am I serving? So all those same questions that are somewhat not easy, but they're expected from a business perspective. We also have to be sure that we're considering it for ourselves personally. So again, let me kind of back up a little bit and share with you kind of what kind of got defined for me around personal leadership over the last couple of days. So earlier in the week, I made a commitment. Key word there is, what are the commitments you're making? I made a commitment to a handyman that works for me. And it just so happens that I wouldn't call him homeless, but at the same time, I like to, keep him busy. He does good work. And if I can, get things done around my house and in my office while at the same time supporting him in any way, shape or form, I want to be able to do that. And I want to do it, kind of regularly, meaning weekly, to where, I can be helping him and contributing to him. Anyway, so I made a commitment to him on Sunday because obviously he relies on a consistent means of money as well each week. And I made a commitment that he would come Thursday morning to work on some fencing in my backyard. And it got to Wednesday, and I had a crazy, crazy day Wednesday. And he texts and he said, "Hey, I still plan to be there tomorrow morning." Now, I, had a hell of a day, very busy, very good, but just crazy. And it was, it was going to be 8:30, 9 o'clock at night before I even got a chance to kind of breathe. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have to get to the lumber store, and I have to get all the lumber that he would be needing and the cement and all the supplies, so forth and so on. And I'm thinking, okay, it's like 8:30, 9 o'clock now. So I keep my commitments because yes, could I have canceled on him? Sure. Is there times that I need to? Are there times you need to make changes and cancel on people? Absolutely. Even that late, 9 o'clock at night, he's expected the next morning. But personal leadership is all about really considering, would I, in this case, have been canceling because it was an aggravation or a frustration for me, that it was going to kind of, send me into a tizzy first thing in the morning in order to do all of this? Or is it because really I have a very true reason for being canceling on him and breaking my commitment to him and showing up for him? And therefore, if that's the case, yes, I would. But if it's because I just don't want to be put out in having to keep my end of the commitment, um, and doing what I was supposed to be doing, which was getting the supplies in time for him to be able to come and earn a living, well, then that's going to be a test of my personal leadership in that case, as well as it would for you in your case. So really be thinking about kind of how do you show up? How do you keep your commitments when things go awry, when things get crazy, when things aren't going the way you want them to? Do you kind of fall to not playing victim as much as just, okay, what's the easy way out? How can I, kind of ignore this, avoid this, interrupt this? How can I just kind of delay it and postpone it and not really have to deal with it because it's either hard or frustrating or aggravating, whatever the case might be? That is personal leadership. And so I texted him back. I said, all will be good. Well, all will be good was a little bit challenging there. So I get up first thing Thursday morning. I'm up at 6. I get to the lumber store at 7. A beautiful, lovely woman, Vanessa, lovely, 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 gets all my supplies for me and goes to put it in my car, realizing that these 8-foot long fence posts are not going to fit in my car. Just 2 of them. Of all the supplies that I was getting, the only thing that wasn't going to fit are these 2 8-foot poles. And so now, personal leadership. How do I respond to something like that? It's now about 7:45. He's going to be showing up at 9. I'm paying him for his time. So who wants him just standing around doing nothing? And I said, okay, so what are my options? I couldn't think of anybody that would have a truck that would be around that early in the morning, especially in the part of town I was in. And at the same time, I want to be bothering somebody at that early hour? So the Vanessa was like, okay, you can rent a truck. Well, they didn't have a truck. So I had to go to their competitors and I had to find a truck 20 minutes away. And so I'm like, okay, now personal leadership. How do you respond to something like that? I could have gotten very aggravated, very frustrated. I could have gotten even mad at him, like, oh, damn, why do I have to be doing this? Why am I running around first thing Thursday morning on a work day? And I'm driving myself crazy because I don't have what it is I need to get this thing, easily done for him and for me. But I didn't. Personal leadership is a choice about being positive. It's all about the traits of positivity, the traits of your mindset, your attitude, about how you go and live life, how you make decisions, how you adjust to interruptions and changes and obstacles in your life. So I want you to be thinking about it personally when it comes to even, dealing with your own relationships, dealing with your own errands and just living on a day in, day out basis, maybe your kids, maybe the dogs, maybe the community, whatever the case might be. And then I want you to also be thinking about, okay, so how does that show up for you in business? If you're making, if you're breaking commitments or not showing up in your personal life, is that trickling into what's happening in your business to where maybe that is what's causing your frustrations from a business perspective? All right. Make sense? All right. So let me continue with this story with, with Chris, my handyman, and these lumber stores. So the store's 20 minutes, or the truck I'm going to have to rent is 20 minutes away. So I happened to text Chris and I said, hey, I'm going to still be there by 9, but I'm having to rent a truck. It's a big ass truck. I'm not comfortable driving it really, but I'm going to, but you need to be there at my house by the time I get there so you can navigate me down a very narrow alley driveway that I have to my house. And he said, no problem. Fine. And again, I could have been like, agitated, aggravated, but I wasn't. And he responded, he responded in kind. He was like, yes, I will absolutely make sure that I'm there, because he recognizes that, this was an inconvenience and agitation, and I'm a little bit insecure about driving this big ass truck. And he, so he was responding in kind. So I get to the house, we unload. I even get back to the store within their time frame of charging me out the yin yang for renting a car, for renting a truck. So all worked out beautifully. All worked out beautifully, and Chris, got to work, and I sat down at my desk, and I said I was running a bit late from getting down to the work that I needed to do, and actually I had a meeting at 10. So I definitely wanted to take care of him, get him busy, and make sure I kept my commitment to that 10 o'clock that I had. Well, so I'm going to continue briefly into yesterday afternoon. So the morning went great. And again, personal leadership is about the positive attitude and the approach and how you show up in the world. And therefore, how you show up is how the universe is going to respond to you in kind, right? So having a great morning, I'm like, I can't believe that I'm about to talk about this at 1 o'clock. And, here it's all happening, all kind of proving to myself, even maybe validating for a conversation with you around personal leadership. And so I get on to our training yesterday, and I have a great conversation with myself. I do see, like I mentioned at the beginning, I do see several people popping in, but they're popping out at the same time. I didn't catch a comment from somebody as quickly as I wanted to then learn after that 20-25 minute conversation, there was no sound. Now, again, personal leadership, and really consider this example when it comes to how do you respond to interruptions, delays, obstacles, fears, limiting beliefs when they pop up. So I'm starting to post, as I mentioned, I'm starting to post the video all over the place when, one, I check the quality and realize there's no sound. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's just muted somewhere, somewhere on my computer, on YouTube, on Facebook, somewhere. And then I happen to see Brini, who's in our Powerhouse Mavericks group on Facebook. And she had said, hey, Bernadette, there's no sound for me. Now, I could have gotten really aggravated, forget about the fact that I sat there and talked for 20-25 minutes. It was a good conversation, by the way. But anyway, but more so just because of the fact that I even, because I didn't get settled enough in, enough time, because I was back to back in meetings, to where I was even kind of dressed properly, and I didn't get a chance to freshen up my face and makeup and whatnot. And so I could have gotten aggravated that, oh my gosh, it didn't even work out anyway. I could have had time to take a shower, get, changed, put some makeup on, look half decent. But that's not what, at least I think, that's not what I think my community is looking for, is to check out my latest, pair of earrings or blouse or makeup that I'm doing. They're showing up, hoping that maybe there's some tips and strategies that I might be sharing with them that can help them with their life. So I was willing to kind of not even get out of the casual fitness clothes that I had been wearing all morning, running around and doing these errands and getting onto these meetings that I didn't need to have with clients, like dressed up and whatnot. But I had decided, no, I need to show up. I need to keep my commitments. I need to, I made a commitment to be here at 1 o'clock on Thursdays and provide some training tips and advice for those of you who want to take advantage of that. And I'm just not going to use the excuse that I didn't get a chance to get a shower and put some lipstick on. So I went ahead and did it. And yet, though it didn't work out, I wasn't going to get mad that was a waste of time. What I did, because personal leadership is accountability and responsibility. What I did is I sat there after I realized that, it didn't happen. But I sat there and said, okay, so what happened? What didn't happen? And what do I need to do differently the next time? Now I can make excuses and say, well, I tested everything, because I always do, and it was working, and there was sound and whatnot, but that doesn't mean that I didn't hit a button or I didn't do something differently between the two monitors and screens that I use. But I did need to work that through and figure out, so the next time it didn't happen that way. Now, I never make a commitment to myself that it will never happen again, because life happens. It sucks, but it happens. So, personal leadership is also the choice to, just kind of take responsibility, take accountability, own up, assess, what's happened, what's not. Even when there's some really big, kind of screw ups, I'll call them. A lot of times for my clients, it's just the fact that they did set a goal, they did have this action plan, and then they allowed life to interrupt them for not only days, but a week or weeks. And they get to middle of the month or the end of the month, and we're talking and we're accounting for their progress and the goal that they had for themselves, especially when it comes to getting clients and making money. And then they're really disappointed at themselves. Personal leadership is then what I look for is then, okay, so do they make excuses about that and just kind of push it aside and make excuses? Or do they really kind of step in to the fact that, you know what? Yes, I allowed that, I have all these family obligations or my kids, or I allowed that, I have this other, pseudo business that I'm working on that kind of takes up time. Or, yes, I allow that, that I just wasn't in the mood and my mindset wasn't there and I was feeling insecure or I was doubting myself or I wasn't sure of how to do something to get in the way. Personal leadership is just kind of owning up to all of that, because making excuses and pushing it aside and kind of, playing victim, that doesn't help any of us. It doesn't help you to really understand, okay, so what do I need to be doing differently so I can get a different result? I mean, it's like the phrase insanity is, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, we don't want that. And that your coach, I wouldn't want that for you. I would want to make sure that, okay, we're owning it. We're taking accountability, responsibility for it. But we're also, well aware that we need to make some changes in order to, move forward and achieve personally or professionally, whatever it is we're working to do. Now, I'd like you to think about personal leadership too in a couple of other ways, in that personal leadership is, like I said, the positivity, your attitude, how you're showing up, the commitments you're making. And that's all mindset. That is all kind of, what is your mindset statement in life? Are you positive? Are you affirming? Are you one to keep commitments? Are you one to show up? Are you one to be giving? Are you one to take accountability? What is that for you? All right, because it's all about the mindset. The other thing too is personal leadership, as much as it's about the positive traits of how you decide that you want to live, it's also the fact that you're aware that you can't do it alone and you don't want to do it alone. And even when you don't have the biggest of support systems around you, you have a strong support system around you. Your support system, your network could be one person, but that one person is somebody who steps up for you, defends you, supports you, motivates you and inspires you, kicks you in the butt when you need it, holds you accountable, challenges you, and just, they show up for you just as much as you show up. And so that could be one person, but it could also be a number of people. And oftentimes, again, this is one of those things like leadership. People think about support systems, think about networks or their tribe when it comes to work. But they don't necessarily really consider, okay, so what do I need also in my life? What are the type of people that I need surrounding me personally and professionally in order to really not only, face the challenges, overcome the obstacles, be motivated and supported, but also to be mentored and guided and advised and kind of steered in the right direction, kicked in the butt, or simply to be coached and supported overall. And building a support system like that for both personal and professional will really ensure that when you are kind of wandering and lost, or you have successes. And many of you, well, I won't make it sound like it's the majority of you, because it's not. But there's some of you that come to me and you want to cheer with me about your successes, because you don't have a network to really kind of like, put it out there and say, hey, I got this great win, or I accomplished this and I didn't think I was going to, or this has been a challenge for me and yet I've done it. And you don't necessarily have that support system there. And so you'll reach out to me, whether that's in a DM, whether that's on Facebook, whether that's in an email, or even, I'll get for my clients, I'll get a 911, can we have a chat? And they'll want to celebrate, because we all need that support system. So personal leadership, apart from mindset, is also all around having a strong support system. But lastly, personal leadership too, it's about having energy and health within yourself. And I'm not just talking, well, it is physical, but I'm talking physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. It's about self-care. It's about what, even what they say on the plane, put your mask on yourself first before helping anyone else. And simply that's because you taking care of yourself and loving and respecting yourself and giving yourself the care and the kindness that you and everyone deserves is good for everybody around you. When you're deprived, other people are deprived of all of you. And so personal leadership is also not just showing up and keeping commitments and being responsible and accountable, having a strong support system, but it's also a great deal to do with how do you take care of yourself? Because that's going to be a reflection on how you take care of other people. Now, some people will say, especially women, well, I always take care of everybody else first before I even take care of myself. And for women, a lot of that is true. A lot of that is true. But at the end of the day, there's a good reason for you to be considering that, people will look at you and be like, yeah, she takes care of everybody else. What I wouldn't want for you is I wouldn't want them to say, but she neglects herself. She's not taking care of herself. Now, some people look at that as a badge of honor. Well, look, I'm selfless. I want to take care of everybody else. And I don't need to be taken care of. And they wear that as a badge of honor. And yet I would have you consider whether or not that's true, if it's truly a badge of honor, because I see it as someone loving themselves, respecting themselves, caring for themselves, is really what we should honor and what needs to be cherished, and recognizing too that when we do, it's not selfish. It's not selfish at all. It's knowing that we want to show up. You want to show up for the people around you in the best state of being, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, even, financially. Because if you're taking care of yourself in all those aspects of life, you can betcha your business and your career are pretty stable. They're going to be pretty rock solid. If you're taking care of yourself and you have that, that health, that energy, that mindset, that strong support system that I mentioned are the key components of personal leadership. But I really want you to bring all of that and then back to considering, I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I don't know why, but I want you to bring it all back to, kind of then saying to yourself, all right, then how am I showing up? How do I want to, put myself out into the world, serve other people? How do I want to give? How do I want to self-care? And therefore, how do I want that to be reflected in also not just my personal life, but my business life? So if you are struggling, if you are stuck, if you are frustrated, if you are impatient, if you are anxious, kind of just take a look at kind of what are you doing, at home? What are you doing between, 8 to 8 each day, Monday through Sunday, outside even the scope of your clients or prospects or peers or business partners. How are you actually showing up and putting yourself out in the world personally first? Because it will have a direct reflection on how you're showing up, and keeping your commitments and leading your life from a professional perspective. So whenever in doubt as to what's going on in business, look at your life and vice versa. All right. And that might provide you some extra information, self-awareness about yourself that can then be tweaked and reconfigured and shifted. So you are, going out there and creating all those riches in both your business and life that you deserve. Okay. I wanted to make sure this conversation, got in, and I am actually very happy for all the kind of my own lessons in regards to personal leadership over the last few days that allowed me to contribute to that conversation. Because I do look at it on occasion, but like many people, it all of a sudden weeks and months could go by, and I haven't intentionally sat down and really thought, and considered kind of my own leadership approach, not just business, but personally. So I was thrilled that the events of the last several days have helped me to even reconcile that for myself. And I hope it will for you. And if you ever have questions, should you ever have questions in regards to kind of, what do I do when things aren't going the way I want them to be going? And how can I, get what's happening to me to work for me as opposed to get against me? How can I show up? How can I, make the commitments and keep the commitments in such a way that both, really fulfills what I want personally, but also professionally. And so don't ever hesitate to reach out and want to schedule some time with me to talk about whatever might be, kind of hanging you up, but also, and I've had actually a couple this past week where people wanted to celebrate and they wanted to talk about opportunities that they had. And therefore, they were just looking for some input to some decisions they needed to be making. So everything that we do doesn't have to necessarily be about your challenges or obstacles that you're having. It could also be about the new ideas, the new strategies, the new opportunities, the new proposals, the new clients that you're also getting. And you're just wanting to kind of have a power discussion in regards to that and get some tips and advice. So I would welcome at any point in time to share some time with you in order to do that. All right. So you can always go to tiny.cc/breakthrough coaching call in order to schedule some complimentary time with me and take advantage of it. Remember, you're not alone. You need that support system. All right. And then until the next time I see you, have a beautiful, beautiful day and a rich week. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.